Nicole?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good evening, everyone. We're gonna call this meeting to order Monday, June 2018 at 7:01 PM. Roll call, Sheila?
Stephanie Burkett,
Here?
Rocky Turvich,
Here.
Cindy Garrity, Glenn Carlson,
Here.
Nicole Boyd, Craig Footman,
Here.
Deb Knopf.
Here.
Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sheila, can you confirm the meeting posting?
I can confirm that the agenda has been posted at all the designated locations.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. From the audience, do we have anything this evening? Not anymore? All right. Item number 7, approval of the school board minutes of May 14, 2018, regular school board meeting.
Motion to.
We have a motion by Deb and a second by Rocky. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under reports, board president members, I don't have anything to report. Anything from any of the other members? Nope. How about future agenda items?
We have plenty on our plate right
Yeah, I would agree. All right, Finance Committee, we did meet. We had the review of vouchers, the Chequamegon United Teachers contract discussion, compensation for non-affiliated staff, the winter transportation expenditure for the purchase of wind sleds, the City of Bayfield lease agreement on the property on the hill, painting of the gymnasium. We did receive a bid for that. Consider the 4K program agreement, 4K coordinator compensation, to put the 2000 Chevy bus out on bids. Also, we had a request from Viking Motors for additional compensation for 2017-18 school year, which we will be tabling until the next meeting, correct?
Yes.
So we can bring it to finance first and have a face-to-face discussion with him and see what his intentions are. And then also LaPointe School improvements, for the gym floor, kitchen renovation, and 2 bathrooms in the hallway that need to be fixed. And we adjourned. Policy Committee.
We met and mostly discussed, the schedule for when we're gonna do the Neola, which will start next week.
Oh, okay.
And then next week,
On the 20th or 27th?
20th and 27th, and we'll probably need one more in addition to that.
Is that at 4 or 5? Is it 5 to 8 or 4 to 7?
What do you mean?
The hours, the time.
Oh, I think last week somebody said 5, but my notes say 4.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Which I think is a good idea.
4? Okay.
Oh, it's a lot.
Yeah, okay, we'll start at 4.
And people start getting just by 8 o'clock or so, they're maxed out.
How about the Wellness Committee?
Didn't meet, did
I think they did meet, I
they? They did.
was not there.
We did. We're just continuing the action plan. We had a low turnout. Only 4 members out of the 16 were there, so we tabled kind of our completion of the action plan until the second Tuesday of September when we're back in action.
Could you put me on the email list for notification of those meetings? Thanks.
All right, reports. I'd entertain a motion to receive and place on file reports 8.2.1 through 8.2.8.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Carlson, we need to pay the bills.
Yes, we do. I make a motion that we pay the, bills in the amount of $315,063.51.
Second.
What was that about?
Uh,
No, that's not wrong.
the last one,
It should be the,
the 733. Okay, I'll change
I'd
that.
rather take the 315.
Yeah, I was looking at the wrong column, 733,486.68.
Second.
discussion. Roll call, Sheila?
Stephanie?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Rocky?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
All right, moving into old business, 10.1.1, the winter transportation expenditure to purchase wind sleds. I think we can just hash this out right now instead of rolling in and saving it till later. I did meet, Jeff and I did meet with, Mr. Nelson, per the board's request. We just, I basically asked him if he had any room for negotiation as far as the daily charges. Right now, the way it works is the Town of La Pointe pays $412 a day, Madeline Island Ferry Line pays $412 a day, the school district of Bayfield pays him $490 per day. And then is it $160 per day on the wind sled? There was a little discrepancy
the
between
van.
$160 or $170.
For the
The
van.
van, I mean, in the van transportation, $160? Okay, I've seen it $160 on one piece of paper, and I saw it $170, but either way, it's $10. We just asked him if, in lieu of us being a third owner in this, if there would be, and he stated adamantly that there is no wiggle room, that he does not make a penny, and he cannot do it for 1 cent cheaper. So I'm just bringing it back to the board.
Was my understanding that he did, allow for another trip this year as needed
Well, we
for
did stress
lunch?
that with this 4K program that's coming in now, and these meals and stuff like that, that there might be some, that it's gonna be, and he did say that, yes, he would step up, and that would be no additional cost, that he would do this, because you're gonna have, with this meal program, if it goes through, it's gonna be, there's gonna be extra trips.
Mhm.
And I'll say it, and I told Arnie right to his face, I said, and I've said it to you all many times, this has never been an issue for me financially as long as the winter transportation aid money was there. That $35,000, and DPI says we can earmark this money. I still think it's an awful lot of money at $1,300+ per day when we're a third owner of it. I'm just being honest, I thought because we were a third owner that we should pay the same rate as everyone else. I thought $5 per kid or per staff per way, but he was adamant against it. And I wanna hear what everybody else
We're not
thinks
an
about
owner.
this. Pardon?
We're not.
No, we're not an owner, we're paying for a third of it.
Right.
I mean, it's not the same contract that we've been, we've paid maintenance fees, we've paid insurance fees, we've paid a daily rate, but now we are paying all of the winter transportation aid is going to make this payment. Town of La Pointe is borrowing this money will go to the Town of La Pointe to purchase and own these sleds. So I just wanna know what everybody else thinks on this. I don't believe the school district of Bayfield should own their own wind sled. I'm not going down that route. I've owned them. I know what they are. I know the liability. I know the safety issues. And I did tell Mr. Nelson, there's never been an issue with them not doing a good job. I did state that, and I told him to his face, that is not an issue, but I'm just reminding everyone again that we're at a max levy. Every year, things are getting more and more expensive, and as in Randy's breakdown, it's $46,000 a year for that transportation of students in that short window. That's a lot of money in transportation,
And
so
how
Randy's
does-
actually got the breakdown, she can go over it.
How does that compare to our other transportation?
How does it compare?
Right,
Per student, you mean?
for our bus, we're
That's like
paying
comparing the apples to oranges.
for that same period, I mean, if you
We're
broke
talking
it.
about a massive amount of students versus a smaller amount, and I'm not gonna
Mhm.
get into that.
Mhm.
But you can,
I'm
that's
just saying
apples.
that we pay a lot of money for all of our transportation,
Oh,
for all
absolutely.
of our students, so I actually sat down and wrote down some thoughts that I wanted to share with the board tonight of my sense of some of the benefits that we've had, so if I could do that.
Absolutely, I wanna know what everyone else, I went and I did what the board asked me to do, and I wanna know what everyone else thinks. I do not make these decisions. This is not, I'm one vote just like everyone else. And you know
Okay,
what, and
well,
I'm in the
go
same
ahead with-
situation as everyone else. When you know everyone in a small town and you get into these business decisions, nobody likes to hear or ever be questions on things, but unfortunately, people, that's what we're elected to do. We're elected to look out for the interests of the staff and students of the school district of Bayfield. I'm not here to look out for Harold Mackey's interest, or Arnie Nelson's interest, or anybody else that runs a business off of this district. I am here and elected to represent the staff and students of this building in town of LaPointe with that school.
So I just wanted to, I wrote down, like I said, I wrote down some thoughts that I wanted to share. And first off, I wanted to say that LaPointe has been an important part of the Bayfield School District, with many, many connections and many positive attributes. It was about 30 years ago that LaPointe switched from being a part of the Ashland District to, become part of the Bayfield District, and it's been a strong asset since that time. Many of the students that have come over from LaPointe have been at the top of their class, been on honor roll, high honor roll students when they come to Bayfield, and we've even contributed a few valedictorians. So they make a great contribution to the student body. The LaPointe School, during the time that my daughter was there for a period of 4 to 6 years, received what was called, they received plaques for the Wisconsin School of Promise plaques they were recognized as their own entity for the proficient and advanced academics that they turned out over there. I think one of the things about the LaPointe School that's always impressed me is the active support of parent and community groups that have participated in supporting that school. They've held bake sales, they volunteer in classrooms, we have community people that come in and read, come in and teach, volunteer to share art projects and things. The school, the community and parents raised money on their own for 2 full playgrounds over a period of 20 years. So we've had one playground that finally fell apart, then we raised money for the second playground, and that was not at a cost to this district. They built their own school gardens. They, back when the SOS committee was active, all the labor to paint the school and roof the school was donated by Island residents and parents. They also have raised money to send all of its 5th graders on an educational social studies tour with the teachers around Wisconsin. And those kids have learned, they've been to Madison, they've followed the rivers, they've written journals about wildlife and plant life, and they've gone 13 times without, solely supported by the parents and the community. So that school is a good part of our district. That school is a strong part of this district of Bayfield. Financially, the Madeline Island community has always been one of the lead supports of this school in tax revenue. When I first started here on the school board, at that time, the LaPointe property taxes were 51% of the total tax revenue that was coming into this district. Currently, we're at 47%, but that's alone. And the other townships come up with the rest, but the island community comes up with 47%. So we've got a lot of good things going. We've got a strong school and we've got a great financial support, but we've got this body of water between us. And we need to keep having solutions for transporting students, staff, and supplies. We're the only school district in the state of Wisconsin that has this. So we are unique, and we need to think creatively, and we need to think collaboratively. The ferry is pretty straightforward. We have to get the students and staff back and forth, but we have the winter. In the not-so-distant past, we had island-built wind sleds. I was privileged when I first came here to ride on one of the Nelson sleds. That was not designated as a school district vehicle. It was built by the Nelsons, and on my first trip across with students and adults on a dark, cold, frosty morning. We were breaking through the ice and dragging into the water numerous times about the last third of the trip, and it was very scary. We didn't have a lot of the bells and whistles that we do now. And we did not have a designated van for transporting. And the buses weren't coming over, so parents had to self-transport. So it's always been a process of getting kids over here. It wasn't until 2000 that those plans really started to change and come together to figure out a way to get a safe, professionally designed and built sled and ice rescue boat. And we had a federal grant to help us. So we still needed to figure out a way to operate and maintain it. The school district, the town of La Pointe, and the ferry line all benefited greatly from this federal grant. And we all took advantage of it, and we got a darn good sled that's lasted a long time. The community and school district leaders, so from the island and from this district, came together and met repeatedly over time and had lawyers and community people, and they determined that a cooperative plan between them would be the best way to solve that issue. So the ferry line, who needs to deliver the mail, needs to deliver packages, so they need a transportation venue. The town of La Pointe, who needs to be able to do the business of the town and to provide some transportation for its citizens and workers, and the school district all joined in a partnership. A collaborative plan that would be fair to all, a plan that would meet the needs of each entity in a safe and reliable manner, something that would truly be unaffordable and impractical for each entity to do by itself. And we have seen a safe, dependable system in place for over 17 years that serves the needs of the school district, the town and its citizens, and the ferry line. All three entities pay a third of operation and maintenance, and each contracts with Windsleds, Inc. And I feel Windsleds has gone out of its way to meet the expectations of all three parties. There's been a lot of stipulations that back about 6-7 years ago that were put on put on Arnie and his crew to pass particular testing to make sure that they were practicing evacuations and having safe travel across the lake. The state has provided the school district with 75% of its cost to operate. That's an amazing financial boon to this district, up to $35,000, which Randy has showed us that we can use to support continuing to have a safe, dependable, reliable vehicle to get us across. As I said, most recently, Arnie was asked to provide some additional trips for lunch delivery, which he has agreed to do so. I believe that from all the evidence that when I've talked to people in the town and the ferry line and previously in the district, that the Windsled Inc. has operated in a fiscally responsible manner, providing safe and dependable service, doing a job no one else is qualified to do. And now our 17-year-old sled is wearing out. It needs to be repaired. That $35,000 fund that is in state statute will be able to be used for purchase and all the expenses the district will have, leaving us a balance, which is on this sheet, of $11,666 per year for 4 years, after which time it will drop. That is incredible. And I think the town and the ferry line wish that they somehow had that. That's an incredible allowance for our district. So to me, this is a win-win situation for everybody. We as a district have only benefited from this arrangement and can continue to do so. We have an obligation to provide fair and equal education to the students of La Pointe, students who benefit our district as a whole and are strongly supported by their parents and community. By maintaining this partnership, it is my belief that we have saved the district hundreds of thousands of dollars over what it would cost to purchase and maintain a wind sled of our own at the district level. It is the right thing to do to continue to work together for the benefit of all. This collaboration works. And that's my statement to the board. Very strong support for what we have and that that it should continue.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Does our $490 a day include maintenance
Yes.
and operation?
No.
No,
Oh, it's separate, yeah.
Any
So we pay
item
that.
that's under $200 in a fix, Arnie pays out of his own pocket. Anything over comes out of the maintenance fund, that's split three ways,
Okay,
$10,000 a year.
$10,000 a year.
It's on, up to, under maintenance.
so we pay for that, we pay the daily rate, plus our share of,
1/3 of the insurance.
yep,
Mm-hmm.
plus 1/3 of the purchase price, right?
Well, that'll just
In
be for
this
these
new
4
plan,
years.
correct.
Yeah,
The other purchase was provided through the grant.
and so, how many pupils ride that thing? I mean, on the high end, how many pupils would ride it each way?
For the school?
Mm-hmm. For the school.
It can be anywhere from 12 to 15, plus then you have staff that go back and forth. For example, the LaPointe teacher now rides
Okay,
as well.
but as, my understanding is, I can go down there and ride it for $5 each way, is that correct?
Mhm. Right now, the price is going up, but, right, last year you could.
But is it going up proportional to what we pay per student? I don't understand why there isn't a parity there between,
Because if everybody and all the students paid $5, it wouldn't be enough. Instead of paying $5, we would probably be paying about $30 one way.
Who would be paying 30?
Anybody that wanted to drive, or go on it.
so we're
I'm just-
subsidizing everybody
Exactly.
else? I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay, in order to have a way to transport those students
Mm-hmm.
over here, we have to all split this 3 ways. If you had your own wind sled to transport those students, you'd be paying $185,000 for a sled, and you'd be paying all the cost, all right? Because you'd have to get those students back and forth.
But
So
this,
by this operation, you pay only 1/3.
But I feel it's punitive for us to be paying more than any other wind sled rider.
what we're doing in a sense is subsidizing
We're subsidizing,
transportation for
yeah.
everybody
yes,
that lives there. That's,
we are.
that's the bottom line. Whether we
A
agree with it or
three-way
disagree with it.
split.
No, I understand the three-way split.
But-
We're talking education here.
Mhm.
Our responsibility is to educate kids.
And to get those kids over
No,
here and
no, I'm
back
just
and
saying,
forth.
our responsibility is to educate kids.
Okay,
One question I do have is what are the alternatives? Past years, being on the school board, we're updating the IT, this, that, everything else, different staff, teachers that live over there. I mean, we're talking what, maybe 3-4 weeks of winter transportation with a wind sled. What other alternatives are there? If there isn't any,
Yep.
then it's a no-brainer. But is there? Because we were leading up to this, last time we were talking about in Legendary Waters, when there was probably 150 people. So what are the alternatives, if there is any?
Got a question? Yeah, okay. So, right now, the school administration and district, we've been focusing on, more or less, the issue currently is that if, for next fall, when this happens next winter, we know that there's a new 4K program coming along, so we're concerned about that. There's some littler kids on there. Mr. Nelson brought that up. And we also have a meals program that we're looking to promote, if we go in that direction in the fall, to transport. In terms of a Plan B, Rocky, right now, we don't have a Plan B, other than possibility of utilizing the schoolhouse on the island, looking at teachers who are currently over there, provide some education to kids on the island, but we don't have a Plan B.
Okay.
So there is, at this point, no Plan B. After tonight, if that was something we needed to do, we would look at a Plan B, but right now, we have not gone into that area.
Well, I think the school district itself has to look at it. We need to educate kids, that I get it. And Plan B, if there isn't any, then we need to create one that's workable for children. The part that Stephanie, I think, was saying, and the part that pisses me off, and I think the world of Ronnie, the Nelson family, whatever, But the part that pisses me off, and I don't care, is that we are subsidizing transportation over and beyond children. That's our responsibility. If the parents should be, hey, I don't,
I don't
Deb-
see it that way.
well, Deb,
Okay, you
I
can say
wouldn't-
that.
wait, no.
Say it, but I
Then
can
how
shake
come
my
Madeline
head
Island Ferry
because I
Lines
don't,
charges us a flat rate? No different than you, no different than you, anybody else in this audience. That's one rate. All of a sudden, we get into winter transportation with children. You're paying a $5 rate or whatever it is this year, but we're paying $490 a day.
you know what the ferry line brings in over the summer so
It
that they
doesn't
can
make,
support
it doesn't make any
that?
difference to me.
No, it does make a difference,
Not to
because
me.
if there was just the island community, a few people on the island and getting the mail over, and just island kids, and that ferry line was not being paid, that ferry boat was not being paid for in any other, not receiving
That's
other
not
income.
my business. It's not your business.
You can't compare the ferry boat to the wind sled, 'cause
Why?
they're completely different.
Because the wind sled is also hauling every Tom, Dick, and Harry that either works over there, contracts over there, and everything else, including materials. So don't tell me it's just, mail. It's just this, it's just
Yeah,
that.
but
Our responsibility is clearly student education. That's why I asked,
Mhm.
what is a plan B? There isn't any
Mm-mm.
at this point in time. But my point is I'm trying to make, we are subsidizing, and face it, we are subsidizing transportation over and beyond anybody that is associated with Madeline Island. Whether they contract over there, they live over there, come back and forth. And you gotta, hey,
And what
you're
is
a
your,
smart woman.
what is your choice? To do it all by yourself?
No, I'm not saying buy a wind sled. I'm saying that people should be buddying up. If we talk about collaboration, then let's be friggin' honest about it.
All right, this is a collaboration.
No,
Everybody's
what I'm saying is
getting
be
their
honest
needs
about it,
met.
Deb. We are subsidizing transportation for anybody that is associated with La Pointe.
And that is not my perception, Rocky. You
Well,
can say it you can say
I mean,
it.
do the math.
That is not my perception of
Do the
it at
math.
all.
You just said it would be $30 if we didn't get involved, as an example. But you
Mhm.
pay $5 and we pay what?
I pay,
No, we pay, right here, $46,667 a year. That's what we pay. For anywhere from, what did you say, how many students? Here, total yearly cost, right there.
that's including the loan.
Exactly, but that's what this meeting's about. So where's the subsidy? It's right here.
No, that's including.
Well, actually, Rocky, I disagree with you.
Well, that's fine, you can disagree all day long, but the facts are right here.
Well,
And the subsidy is real. Do you pay $5?
I pay property tax to
No,
the town.
no, oh,
No,
I pay
that's
property
different.
tax too. Don't even get into that property tax.
You pay property tax, excuse me, I have the floor. You pay property tax
Wait, I had
to
the
the
floor.
school.
You butted
pay-
in.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, don't bring this property
Okay.
tax shit up again.
Oh, I
We
will.
all pay property tax. Some of
Which
these
goes
teachers.
to the school.
We also
Exactly.
pay the town of La Pointe tax.
So we pay,
I understand.
yeah, that's the difference.
I pay the town of Russell tax too.
But you don't pay, town of Russell doesn't pay
You
for the
pay
wind
Ashland
sled.
County, I pay Bayfield County.
Right, but the town of Russell isn't paying a third.
The hell
of
we're
the-
not, we're right here.
No, that's the half. That's a third.
I don't know,
It,
And
it doesn't, what we need to stay focused on is the $35,000 that was earmarked by Bob Jelk years ago, and was the biggest thing on the $750,000 initially to get this.
Right.
This $35,000 was earmarked for winter transportation only for students.
Right.
That's why I raised the question on why are we paying $490 over $5?
Yep.
That's the only issue I have. I don't think we need to own our own sled. And we sat and I went right with Mr. Nelson and I said, you need to adjust your rates. He said, I can't. And I still don't understand why. I've owned them, I've ran them, I know what they cost, I know what they insure for. I know how much it costs to buy them and maintain them. At $1,324 per day plus the fares you get to receive, you can't tell me you're not making money.
But
You
Craig, the
cannot tell me you're
season,
not making money.
how much would you have to charge for fish if your season was 2 weeks long?
what the hell's fish got to
That's
do with
not
this?
part of the.
Well, no, it is, because the wind sled season is 2 to
Well-
3 weeks long. So he's gotta pay for all of that. I mean, is it worth it for a season that's that short? Cause we're talking $1,300 a day, but if you look at how much we're actually paying, you know, it's probably less than $20,000 a year. And I don't know if Arnie is gonna wanna have the aggravation for $20,000 a year.
let's, roll ahead in our agenda. We'll
Well,
take this because there's obviously some deep concerns. We're gonna roll this forward, we're gonna move this into executive session, then we're gonna come out of executive session at the end of this meeting. We're gonna take this vote, and then that's gonna be it. But we are going to decide this factor this
Right.
evening before we go home.
Well, I'd like to
Because
make a
there's obviously
motion.
some,
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the purchase of the two wind sleds in accordance with the schedule that Randy's prepared, contingent on the town of LaPointe financing, the purchase at, no more than a 3% interest rate.
And I second it.
discussion, and in discussion,
So Glenn, is that separate and apart from what we're talking about here?
That's,
Yep.
that is this.
That is this.
But it also includes the student transportation costs.
Yeah, that, and we're
that's
not,
what we're
yeah.
not settled on,
Well, we have a contract already with Arnie through the end of
through the end of
the
this
year.
It
And so
will
when
not-
that comes
it-
up,
And there probably
it
won't
plays
be a
no
wind
effect
sled
in the
before the
contract
end of
because
the
they
year.
won't be running when they're being used.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna be into a new contract before they
Right.
are used.
Mhm.
So the contract we hold right now is basically,
A moot point.
we're gonna
Yeah.
be up
Right.
against a new contract.
Right.
Regardless of what we do coming up.
So it's,
And I'll say this in discussion is now that I know the details and financially, I do know the ins and outs a little bit, actually a lot more
Mhm.
about subsidies and to the ferry line and how this is all working and stuff, so, I can promise you this, I am gonna pay attention a lot more closely on things like this, and is the board ready to roll on this, or do you wanna meet more on it? That'll determine my vote.
There's a
If
motion.
people have more to say, I would sure like to hear it right now.
I'm thinking what Rocky said, which is, we don't have a choice. Now, that's on the purchase.
Mhm.
When it comes to the annual operations, I think that that's a negotiation for December. And hopefully we will have a robust discussion at that point. But I think right now, the focus is on the purchase and, as Randy's shown us, the net cost, even including the daily charges, which is that first column, is going to end up costing the district $11,600 a year for 4 years. If we, and I know you're not proposing that we buy our own, but if we did buy our own, we'd get that $35,000, I think, once. And so it would end up, for $185,000 wind sled, we'd end up paying,
It would
Yeah.
roll every year.
yeah, it'd be we'd end up paying $150 out of it.
still do the 35,000.
We could? Even if we owned it, okay,
That money is to the district, earmarked for the district.
right,
To do with winter transportation.
right, right.
That's only can be used for winter transportation.
Yeah, I didn't think it could be used for debt service. It could, okay.
Let me ask you this question, or here's another one. We enter into agreement with Arnie, is that gonna carry out to 2023? Or do we negotiate with Arnie separately, Wind Sleds Inc., differently every 2 years?
Right.
So these costs then can increase. We just used, this is a projection,
Right,
Mhm.
assuming we're gonna get $35,000 up through 2022. And assuming Arnie's gonna be at $10,000 maintenance. We've had years that $10,000 has been spiked because the engine blew, because of this, because of that. So I don't want anybody that's sitting here thinking that this number is 11,666. It can change. Next year, Arnie can come along and say, I wanna renegotiate. We got Harold Mackey on the agenda. I wanna renegotiate. So don't get locked into these prices the way they are. And I'm only looking at the total cost this district pays on every friggin' time it comes to transportation, up, up, up. You know, the only one that's been fair, totally fair, is Manlan Island Ferry Lines. We went to negotiate a deal years back, you were on board. We'll buy the gas, we'll buy the fuel for buses. That bit us in the ass a year later. We still had an increase. And you take fuel expense is a huge expense for busing.
Mhm.
So all I'm saying is, don't look at the yellow brick road, 'cause this will change. I won't be here to see it, but I'll tell you what, it will change. So you talking about collaboration, then you better be collaborative when it comes down to Mr. Nelson or whoever. Wanna renegotiate a contract to increase their cost of the $490 a day, goes to $500, goes to $560, goes to $700, whatever the case may be, this annual maintenance increases, you better be ready to bear that burden when it happens. Every board member here. That's all I gotta say. And I ain't voting one way or the other, let's put it that way. You call for a question.
I just wanna keep coming back to that this is not about that some years the ferry line doesn't get, they don't have to pay, they're paying, their $412 a day isn't buying them very much. All they're doing is bringing mail. So some days it's a lot, some days they're paying towards they're subsidizing too. Because
I get
doesn't
that.
cost them, and the
But
town,
we don't have the
the town
contract
is
for mail.
subsidizing.
We don't get DOT funded either, because that's an actual roadway.
I'm talking about the three
I understand that.
entities
I understand that.
that if you wanna nickel and dime everybody, I don't know, but if you
I'm not nickel and diming.
consider that we're all three purchasing, we're all three running this,
$46,667 is not nickel dime.
okay, but the town and the ferry line all pay that
Yeah,
too.
but I understand, you're passionate about it. I understand that, I
I'm
get it.
passionate about this, and the fact
I
that we
understand
can't
that.
do it without that.
I'm no dummy, I understand that. I've understood it 8 years ago. And if you understand that this, is that back 8 years ago, or whenever it was in Isle Vista, everybody wanted to buy a friggin' wind sled. I said, I think we need to sit down,
That
have a
was
sunset time,
2000?
well, whenever it was, have a sunset date, that all parties need to sit down and negotiate,
Mhm.
because it got like this. And what did we end up? It was a win-win for everybody.
Mhm.
So I'm not against this, but I'll tell you, I'm against is that we subsidize transportation for other than our students. Period. You agreed with that. You have to. I'm not arguing with you.
I'm not arguing with you then either. I mean, this is how I see it. I don't see anybody losing out of this. I don't see anybody coming out of
The
this a loser.
taxpayer, other than the Madeline Island people, Town La Point, are paying additional costs to help you as an adult transport yourself and others and contractors back and forth at a less rate. And we pay the difference. Am I
Again,
right?
I'm
Am
gonna
I
say,
missing something?
I pay,
Am I missing something here?
because I don't see it that way. I don't see
Well, you
it that
shouldn't,
way.
because you live there. I understand that.
Well, I don't care if you lived over there. I understand that the school district needs to be a part of
I
this
wouldn't
in
live over there,
order.
first of all, because the taxes are too high, because the property value is too high. That's what my point is that you guys live in a land-rich area. I get that, that's good. But don't come along to me and talk about this property tax.
Well, while we were I think Bud was saying what I've said before too, is that I'm paying 3 times for the
Call the
ferry,
question.
okay? That's all.
Yep. Hey,
Call the question.
Ask for a roll call vote on this.
And the question is just about this purchase.
The purchase.
The question is about this purchase, and I'm gonna state, I don't have any issue with the $35,000 to purchase. I do have the issue with the daily rate, and it will be negotiated. It will be negotiated in the next contract, because I agree with Rocky. Like I said, you have to answer to people on the street when you make these decisions, and us paying $490 a day versus someone else paying $5 is not right.
when is Arnie's contract up?
December 31st.
At the end of this year?
December.
Okay.
We renegotiate it, before they get used, we will be back in negotiations again with this contract.
So the motion is just for the purchase of new sleds, is that
Well, that's
correct?
what's on our table right now.
Right.
Cause
And
that
two sleds.
contract sunsets anyway.
For the
Two
sled.
sleds.
Two with,
For our,
Two sleds,
yeah, two sleds.
yes.
for hauling,
And it was
how many kids?
contingent on the town of La Point providing the financing
At
Correct.
3%.
At-
At 3%.
at no more than 3%.
Yeah. At no more less than 3%.
At no more than 3% interest.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Rocky?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Glenn?
Glenn?
Yes.
All right, we're gonna move item 10.2.14 up to the top of the chart for Mr. Bailey, so he doesn't have to sit here do 13 other things, please.
Thank you very much for doing that. I'm Bill Bailey, Check Bay Renewables. I presented to this board in February about some grant opportunities that we had, in January of this year, which we did get, additional funds, from the Department of Energy. We used those funds to fund a feasibility study from Madison Solar Consulting, and that report was completed in March. That report is on our website, the full report, and I believe that with your information, right, you have, a few pages out of that report that apply to this school. Am I correct, Jeff, that you also
I don't,
put in there some other?
I don't know if we put it in, Bill.
I don't think we did.
No, it was more or less you were going to, the email communication you gave me had to do with, the grant was due at the end of June.
Yes.
So we wanted to get you in here so you could provide us information on that application for the grant.
All right.
And I thought that was what the evening was about.
Right. So, I would recommend that you go to our website, it's called checkbayrenewables.org, CHEQ, bayrenewables.org. The full report's there. There's 4 reports actually. One, the financial report is the main report, and within that, you're gonna find a few pages that refers to this school. We're trying to put on approximately 100 kW of solar PV on the roof. Of course, it will be a requirement for you to redo your roof, which I believe is in the works before that happens. Then, the 1st of May, yeah.
Bill, I just wanna, sorry for interrupting you, we do have it in the packet.
Oh, you do? We do.
Yes, Bayfield School Solar,
Yes,
yep, it's in there.
okay.
What page is
10,
It's in the
12
back.
pages.
We moved them to the back, so, or to the front, so his information's in the back of the packet.
All right, so you have a few pages that are part of that report. I think you probably have an email that I sent out, dated May 21st, and you probably have a calendar which shows kind of something that looks like this, which is kind of a sequence of a timeline between now and next
Yeah,
month.
it's the last page.
Pardon?
That's our last page.
Yeah, so I would just ask you to read that sometime. I'm not gonna go over all the details tonight, because I see you have a stack of paper to go through, so I'm sure. On May 1st, the Public Service Commission announced another grant opportunity that was not known until May 1st when they announced it. So the March report that's in your report, they talk about getting a grant from Focus on Energy. It's called a RECIP grant. This is an additional new grant. And this opportunity that they announced, $5 million available for this year. They defined it as you can apply for 2 types of grants, a planning grant or an implementation grant. And because of the fact that your roof needs replaced, we would be applying for another planning grant. And what this would do would be to set up, define the specs, of the project, narrow down what type of modules, how they would fit on the roof, that sort of thing. And then it would also prepare a request for proposal, so that you could get a bid from contractor. So part of the thing that I'm looking for today is that you have read, the financial metrics, you've read the risk analysis, you understand the project. If we do get the grants, that you'd be willing to move forward with the project. The Madison Solar Financial Report, he offered 3 different options. And one of the options is called a TPP, or third-party participant. And that's where the outside investors come in, they utilize the tax credits, so the project is cheaper in the long run, and then the ownership flips down the road. That's of the 3 choices, that's the choice that we're recommending. And if you actually read the financial metrics and especially the risk analysis, I think you'll agree that that's the best path forward. The risk analysis, the investors are taking all the risk. The school district is taking none until the ownership flips. And you have a choice of when that ownership flips. It could flip as a minimum 7 years down the road, or it could flip 12 years or 20 years down the road, or it could never flip. You could tell them to take it off your roof if you don't want it anymore, 20 or 25 years down the road. So, the fact that you don't have any obligation, you have no risk involved, to me, is very significant, to the school district. And therefore, that is the method or the process that I would recommend, and that's what I'm looking from the board to agree that if we do get all these grants in place, that you would move forward with the project with this TPP process, the third-party TPP process. Should probably put my glasses on. You can look at the calendar and you can see the sequence, the June 29th deadline for this, energy innovation grant, you would know in August whether you get that grant. And then it would probably be, for just the school district, it would probably be $3,000 or $5,000 in that range. And that would set up the works to apply for the next grant, which is the RECIP grant. And then if that grant went forward, you would know that, the timeline has not been defined by the Public Service Commission yet, but if it does go similar to last year, you would know in November. You would apply for the grant. The deadline last year was October 13th, and the notification was November 17th. Then you have a few weeks after that, or a month, to make a decision, to look at the finances again. And if all the grants go through, then the project would proceed on, and we would be looking at next summer construction after your roof is complete.
Now you're saying that you're recommending the attorney
Yes.
proposal instead of buying outright.
And it's because of the risk factor. The finances are fairly similar. And if you look at the financial metrics, you'll see that they are almost identical. But one, you take all the risk. The other one, you don't take any of the risk. And you have the option to not even ever own it. If you know, what if technology changes or something happens and you choose not to own it in the future, you have that option. So, because of risk.
But also then they see all the benefits first, the first 15 years, and we don't really see the benefit. We're continuing
Well,
to pay.
the financial, and I'm glad you're asking these questions, because this is the gal that knows the finances, on it, and I respect her decisions. But if you look at the, now I don't have to get my glasses on. If you look at the net present value and the internal rate of return of the two options, and I think there's a chart in here, I'm gonna try to find the page that compares all three of them. It's the very last page, it's called 46. It's the last page of the Madison Solar Consulting Financial Report that I gave you. And it says comparison of direct ownership in TPP results for the Bayfield School. And if you look at, like, for example, the 25-year net present value, if you direct owned it, it's $51,000, and if you did it through the TPP, it's $50,000. That's virtually the same. If you look at the internal rate of return, 25 years, if you owned it directly, it's 5.7%. If you went through the TPP, it's 9.8%. So the internal rate of return would actually be higher to go the other route. So if the financial metrics are similar, and you don't have to take any risk, to me it makes total sense to go with the no risk. Why take a risk if you don't need to? And so that's basically the only reason why I'm recommending it. It's not, the finances aren't the reason, it's the risk. Another thing is it's a lot easier. You know, you don't have to write the request for proposal. You don't have to find the contractor. We got a guy that's doing all the work for you. All you gotta do is review it, you know, sign on the dotted line. If you get the grants, you gotta accept them. They're your grants. The request for proposal process, you do need to manage it. I mean, he's writing the request for proposal, but if somebody calls and asks a question, you need to have somebody available to answer those questions. If, you have to select the contractor, I mean, it's your decision. So there is some responsibility, and he goes through that email that I sent on May 21st, it goes through some of the responsibilities of the school district.
So, Bill, I just have a couple of questions. So you mentioned, okay, is there startup fees on the district side? You mentioned it could around $5,000. Did I hear you right on that?
No, that would be covered by the grant.
Okay.
There's literally no money up front for the school district. Now, if you're talking about the sewer plan, we found out just 10 days ago It was just, I don't know why, but they just said sewer plants aren't eligible.
You also mentioned something about a roof replacement under this. Is that what we're talking about, replacing the roof also, or?
That's a totally separate project that the school district is doing.
Right, okay.
Because we have, our roof wouldn't support it the way it is
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
The,
The reason I say that is because, this summer simultaneously to that, in July and August, the impact aid, funding resource that we obtain every year, they have, applications for construction, renovations for the schools that they commit dollars to. And we will be, Mr. Weber here, will be working on that application too. We wanna make sure that if there's funding out there to repair our entire roof, which we need, or certain parts of it that Dave can talk about, that we don't wanna lose that opportunity either. So if the funding for the roof comes in through another grant, what does that do to this program?
I think they're totally independent. This particular grant, both the grants, the RECEP or the, Energy Innovation Grant Program are specifically for renewable energy. You know, a roof replacement would be, I don't know what the grant you were talking about, but.
Dave, do you have a price on that roof replacement that we talked about?
On, when you know?
No, the one that, the future,
Well, yeah, I have figures on it.
was that the 1.7 million or something, or?
Oh, yeah, it was,
Yeah, so the impact aid that we're gonna, every summer, impact aid sends out, an application for what's called emergency funding for renovation projects for schools. And we're gonna write that grant this summer, it's due in September, if it comes through again. But I wanted to make it clear that you understood that we possibly will have another, possibility for the roof to be replaced. I'm not saying we're gonna get it, but we're gonna shoot
Well,
for it.
none of these grants are guaranteed.
Right.
But you know you're not gonna get them
But
until.
what would that
July.
do, that would interrupt your program though?
No, no, that would not interrupt.
Okay.
Anything we said, but if you did not get the grant, then you got these other grants, you would probably have to turn them down, because you cannot put solar on this roof without fixing the roof.
Right.
There, you know, and it's just a leakage thing, it's not a structural thing, it's just that you need a new rubber or vinyl seal up there, and if you put solar on what you got going now, then you're gonna have to take the solar off to fix the roof, so it doesn't leak. So you need to do this in a sequence of events. Another thing about both the RECIP and the Energy Innovation Grant Program, this is an annual thing. The RECIP, the Focus on Energy, is a 4-year program. The other one came from stimulus money back in 2009. It was originally earmarked for manufacturers, and they did a revolving loan fund. So the Public Service Commission was loaning out money to manufacturers, and then they got the money back because it's a loan. So they still got this money, and they did this for 10 years, and they got $55 million, and they said they're done loaning money. They want to just give it away so they don't have to deal with it anymore. That's basically their share. So they're going to give away this $55 million until it's gone. They announced $5 million for this year, and then every year after that, they're going to keep giving the money away until it's gone, and they can vary the focus of it. Right now, it's focused to schools, tribes, and municipalities, so it's a great opportunity. But if for some reason the roof thing doesn't come through, you know, you have another opportunity in the next year to apply for it. Although the focus might be something different, and they might say schools aren't eligible. They can change it. We should try to go for it this year because it's focused on schools, and hopefully you get your roof fixed too.
That's a good.
I am thinking about what Rocky said, that we are tasked as a board with providing education for our kids. And we know that for the next many years, we have to cut $100,000 out of our budget and not spend any other extra money, just to hopefully not, to be able to do this. And then the next 5 years after that. So I'm concerned that, on a number of levels, I have not read anything about solar systems that indicate they aren't obsolete long before your 20-year time here, your 20-year table, that they're obsolete before you'd ever get there. And my other concern is, whatever money we might have to spend, are we better spending it on kid services? 'Cause that's our job. Solar's not gonna help us educate our kids any better.
I would think that, first of all, solar panels will last 40 to 50 years, so the longevity has been proven. They've been around since NASA put them in space back in the 60s and 70s. And theoretically, solar doesn't cost you anything because you're generating electricity, you're making income. And so the production of the electricity that you make, they will pay for the system, and ultimately they'll produce income. So it will actually help on your deficit.
So it will reduce the amount that we're paying for electricity, because it'll replace
How
that.
many years it goes to the investors, all the income goes to the investors, correct?
Yes,
We've
but
been on this
it
for
goes,
15 years.
instead of going to Excel, it goes to the investors.
Right, so we don't pay anything the first however many years they own it,
That's correct.
before we buy it.
That's correct.
And that's the question I had, looking, Bill, on page 45 of your, which is the TPP results, the 20-year cash flow. I'm just looking at one column to keep it simple. In year one, you're showing, service agreement payments of $13,450. I assume that's payments that the school district makes to the investors?
Yeah.
Underneath that, the next item is energy cost savings of $8,949. What does that represent? Is that money that the district saves?
That's the money that you would not pay Excel,
So it's $5,000 difference.
because it's generating electricity, so Excel's gonna bill you that much less.
Okay, so net, we're actually spending, somewhere around 4,000 to 5,000 more than
It says here, your total of first year is negative $2,000.
2,312, is that the?
Yes.
Okay. What's the KW savings and inverter replacements?
KW saving, you're on a demand charge through your utility,
Okay,
and you know what a demand charge is?
not really.
It's how much electricity you use in any moment in time, and depending on how much you use, Excel will charge you X amount of dollars per kilowatt.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure what your demand is, it's probably 40, 50, 60 kilowatts at a particular moment
So
in time.
it's kind of peak,
Yeah, whatever your peak is, that's what you pay for the month,
right, okay.
and they charge you like $10, $11 per kilowatt, so your bill is probably $500, $600, $700, or maybe $1,000.
I see what you're, so that would be a savings then. But the net, getting to what Stephanie said, even if we had this third-party arrangement, it's gonna be $2,500 a year roughly to the school district, extra than what they're doing now, and it looks like, that is pretty consistent, 2,300, 2,500, 2,700, all the way across.
This,
But that's if the 20-year crystal ball is correct.
Right,
on year
right.
12,
Yep,
the ownership flips, and then that's when you become cash positive.
got it. Okay,
Or year 13.
But this is like looking at a 20-year crystal ball,
or at least 12,
whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
we gotta figure out what the hell is the tomorrows for this district.
Right.
And it's spending, spending, spending. And I'm not saying your plan is incorrect. I'm just saying where this district is at. We got declining enrollment. We never know where impact aid is. Property taxes were maxed out. We levied to the max, Craig said that earlier. This district's gotta be held accountable for expenses. We gotta take care of our students and the teachers and staff that teach them, and our facilities. That's my plan. I make a motion to deny.
To not apply, your motion is to not apply for the grant?
Yep.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? What does everyone think?
how much of this cost is the grant? I mean, there's a lot of figures here that, so the grant would pay for the initial, getting everything installed and getting it started,
No, it would be just for planning.
just for planning?
Well,
Right.
that's the energy innovation grant would be for planning only. The Focus on Energy grant, he's got it on here, Focus on Energy award is $30,000, roughly is 15% of the actual.
And that's just for
construction.
planning it?
It's his income source.
There's two grants.
Oh, okay.
The first one is the energy innovation, that's planning only. Second one is Focus on Energy recip, and that is $30,000, and that's for 15% of the actual construction.
And you said the planning grant, obviously who's gonna do the work to get that grant, filed? Would you guys be doing that, or would that be something Randy?
And solar consulting,
Okay, and that would not cost the district?
no.
My concern is with this roofing issue. That's the only concern I have. I know like what I saw was we're in excess of $1 million on this project, so I'm just I'm nervous. We know that we need to do that. I think we'd be in a lot better place if we had a new roof on and had these decisions, but that scares me at this cost of fixing this roof to stop having 5-gallon buckets in the hallways and in the classrooms.
Well, it seems that maybe, if we've gotta apply for a grant through the impact aid, it might be that the impact aid folks would look more favorably on our grant application if we said, one of the reasons we need to replace this roof is we're gonna be putting solar on and it's gonna be at minimal cost. Just a thought.
Well, it's based on our impact aid, like our student count, and I don't think it's gonna be, they're not ever gonna give us the full amount. It'll be done in sections, I'm sure.
For the roof?
For roads, yeah, we're talking sections. I can't imagine that we would get full project funded the first year, so, we're talking sections.
I appreciate all your work and everything, Bill. I just don't think we're in a place because of the roof right now to do this, and I don't think it would be fair for us to apply for something and take something away from another school that might be in a situation where they could utilize it. If we do apply and we receive it and we're not there to use it, that's kinda crazy to put somebody else that could have an opportunity to do this now, when we're just not in this place.
Well, we can see where the grant opportunities are a year from now. I mean, like I said,
Yeah.
the same grants will be out there next year, they're gonna be there for several years.
I just think personally, I mean, knowing the situation that we're in with this roof and the structure that we have, I just think it would be a lot wiser for us to look at this in a year, in all fairness to everybody, and give this opportunity to another district to apply for this grant and keep us out of the loop for now. I'm gonna call for a roll call on this too, Sheila.
Stephanie?
Okay, now, say it.
You made a motion a second, so it's you vote yes to deny, to not apply for the grant.
To not apply.
To not apply for the grant.
Yes to not apply.
Yes?
Yeah.
Craig?
Yes.
Rocky?
Yes.
Glenn?
Oh,
Is that a no?
that was no, yeah, just because I think it's a no cost to find out, and I understand what you're saying, so.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time, Bill, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We got a good agenda here.
All right. Item 10.2.2, consider first reading of 4K coordinator position description.
What?
What?
You skipped 10.2.1.
2.1,
What? Oh,
special education.
Motion to
oh, I'm
approve.
sorry, yeah, 10.2.1, consider first reading and waive second reading.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, 10.2.2, consider first reading of 4K coordinator position description.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 10.2.3, considering hiring recommendations for 2018-19 school year. First, we have Julie Imhoff, occupational therapist. I'm gonna break
Motion.
these out individually,
Great.
just because
Motion
we've
to
always had
approve.
issues when we haven't.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have Rachel Graves, occupational therapist assistant.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have Kathy Smith for Spanish.
And business,
And business.
Yeah, business is not on there, but it's Spanish and business.
All right,
Oh,
Spanish and business.
all right, I'll make that motion to include Spanish and business.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dean Cook, middle school activities.
So moved.
Second, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All
Oh,
right.
boy.
Rogine, oh, I put my lines here, I'm sorry. Rogine Flaherty, third grade.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Camille Lemler, fourth grade. Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Rocky. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright. Item 10.2.4, consider painting of gym bid.
Dave, you have a
We,
update?
we had a bid, I talked to the finance committee of $7,800 from, Wiener Painting. We had some questions there, because it didn't, include 2 coats of paint. He did come back today, gave me another quote. I told him we wanted two coats of paint on it, because we're worried about covering up the red and the blue stripes that are in there now. He said that what they do is they put a gray paint on it, and that pretty much blocks it out.
Alright.
But I still think 2 coats of paint will do it. And then, I also mentioned the doors and the door frames, we wanted those painted.
Yeah.
So I came up with a new bid, which doubled $14,800.
$14,000?
14.8.
It's only one bidder?
Did you not talk to
Only got one
someone
bid.
who would do
Only
it
one
for
bid.
the, it was more than that original bid, but it was 2 coats?
Yes, it was,
Turner.
John Turner.
Yep, John
Which
Turner.
he didn't, I did invite him to bid again, which he declined because he's so busy.
Was his first bid for 2 coats?
Yeah.
One coat.
John Turner, it wasn't a bid, it was just an estimate that I got.
Oh.
Because we were considering
Yeah.
painting.
He's really good.
This is the only bid we received.
Mm.
Randy, what is our finances according to this now?
budgeted 15,000 for it,
We budgeted 15,000?
yeah, not knowing what it was gonna cost.
Did he know that? 14.8?
I'm no kidding.
Well,
I didn't know that.
I'll make the motion to approve this.
Second.
It hasn't been done in 30 years, so.
Discussion?
This includes the ductwork and stuff, which we did on the first one.
There's a lot of cleaning before there's any
Yeah,
painting,
yeah,
I'll tell you
there's a lot
that.
of prep work that my crew has to do.
Mhm.
Majority of it, so.
You made the motion?
I did, in a second, we're in discussion. Anyone have anything further? For a roll call on this, Sheila?
Okay, Stephanie?
Seemed like 15.
No. Deb?
No.
Craig?
Yes.
Rocky?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Alright, item 10.2.5, consider City of Bayfield lease agreement.
Motion approved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10.2.6, request for bids on a 2000 school bus. Mr. Weber? Is it, what's it worth?
Well, everybody wants to pay for it.
All right.
We'll probably have to pay them.
Yeah,
Can we put that out on the school website, Randy?
No, we have to put it in the paper.
If it costs more than we're gonna get for the bus.
it's expensive putting in a paper.
We were only offered $200
Or that
for it
state
from,
deal.
when we bought the other bus, trade.
And did you have other people interested?
Yes, yeah, some in the school district. too.
Okay.
So, if we go in-house first,
So
See
let's try that.
We can't do it in-house.
we
We
can.
have to do it.
Just
See if
It'll
keep-
be in the paper. Because it's a, fixed asset.
See if Harold's has any room to park this one next to those other numerous buses.
Yeah, he wouldn't even notice.
My dad wouldn't like.
Exactly, just park it out there.
Graveyard out there, eh?
Yeah. I'll make the motion to put it up for bids to keep us all honest here and do it right.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10.2.7, request for bids for La Pointe School improvements.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Weber?
Some recommendations that I have.
Thanks, Dave.
So where does this get published out, or is it something on the Daily Press?
Good job.
Looks good. Thanks, Dave. Very nicely done.
Good.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 10.2.8, consider 4K program agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Do we know a price yet of what the school?
We don't, right now, the only thing that we know from DPI is that we'll have $1,500 guaranteed estimated per pupil at this point for our grant, but that's just a grant dollar amount.
Okay.
And that's why Ashland waits until, if there's a second Friday comp in September to do their addendum. And I have other addendums from Phillips, from Ashland School District, and they're about $1,800 per pupil. Pretty minimal, they're not,
For the year,
per pupil.
per pupil.
Mhm. So they go by the count. So, this is Superior's. Superior's breakdown is $1,800 per semester per pupil.
That's what
Oh,
the
per
district
semester.
pays.
The facilities. This one's Phillips addendum is, if the student participates in a full year, $1,875 per pupil. So they're roughly about the same, I mean, there's not much of a difference.
But what does the state pay the district?
$1,500, they said for sure, right now at this point, but we haven't received information from our grant yet, and we won't know until the fall.
So, and those other contracts, you're saying that that's the
These are
state
current school districts.
that
I
are
received
receiving?
samples of contracts from Phillips, from Superior, from Ashland, on community-based programs.
So it's not the
Kind of
breakdown of
identity.
what the district receives and what goes to that, it's just the per pupil?
Just what goes out
Okay.
the door to the community.
And that doesn't include the additional tax levy that we can, from the
I don't know how they are
FTEs?
doing theirs, because
Okay.
we're producing it on our grant through DPI is $100. That doesn't include any of the tax revenue that we,
It won't impact the revenue, tax revenue?
it will,
It will.
we'll have to count those kids on our tax levy,
Okay, so we get more
tax revenue.
tax revenue. So that would make up the difference between the 1,500, let's say, and the 1,800 or whatever, or more.
And then we'll have some expenses too, we'll have the 4K coordinator, admin stuff on the back end, and we'll have additional costs on our end too. Additional paperwork, reporting. But that'll be made up in revenue.
Tax, okay.
So it won't have to come out of,
Cause I thought in the past, we talked about like the $3,000 per pupil fund, you know, that you get from the state, and then,
They only had us down to 15, we thought we might get the 3,000, but they're giving us the 15.
that's for the first year?
Probably about 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Depends on how many districts are sharing it with,
I see.
that's the difference. So,
Mhm.
it just all depends on who applies for the grant and how much money is left in the pot to share.
Cause it always seemed like there would be a breakdown between the administrative cost and for the coordinator, and then there'd be what would go through to the,
And there will be, we'll break it down.
okay.
Yeah, but right now, we just don't know what we're getting so unknown from the tax levy is what is
Mhm.
up in the air. We know what we're getting on the grant, but not what the tax levy is, because that is based on students at .6 per student.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 10.2.9, consider the compensation for the 2018-19 coordinator.
Where is that in?
It's on appendix D.
Oh, okay.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This next item, I would entertain a motion to table it to our next.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. 10.2.11, consider high school boys basketball coach resignation.
So moved.
Oh, no.
Seconds with deep regret.
With deep regret.
Now, kind of focused on the bigger picture.
Thanks, Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You are relieved.
Thank you.
From that.
From that. 10.2.12, consider 2018 compensation for non-affiliated staff.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, Sheila?
Stephanie?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Rocky?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
All right. 10.2.13, ratify cut contract for 18-19.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Stephanie? Yes. Glenn?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Rocky?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Motion adjourned.
We gotta go into exec yet, buddy?
How we already
You
approved
just did everything that we wanted to do in the executive.
Beautiful.
You did everything
I'll-
everybody else did.
I'll
Yeah,
second
all
that.
three of them are done.
I'll second the motion to adjourn.
Awesome. Motion to adjourn by
What?
Rocky.
We don't have to go into executive?
No.
Already did it.
All three of them were done in the executive.
Oh, okay.
We can make the.
Oh, we can make this vote. Oh, my God.